I have an amazing guest with us, two actually amazing guests. So I've got Jason Northcutt, the land guy, right?
I guess so, yeah.
You guess so?
I mean, I do have a blog called The Texas Land.
So embody it, Jason.
Landman,
yeah, the landman. And then we also have Tanner Hobbs, one of the geniuses behind Studio
Genius.
Genius.
Wow.
I know.
What
live
a
up to
superlative
it.
word.
studioUSA. And so we're in the amazing studio getting to do the amazing Real Producers podcast. But I asked Tanner to be on here too because not only are you the land guy, but you have an amazing background in photography and broadcasting.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about what it means to like niche down into being the land guy, but also talking about what that means, and we'll geek out a little bit. I know Tanner's really excited on what you do creatively to really showcase that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's really funny. You know what's really funny? So I was putting stuff into ChatGPT. You know you're doing a really good job when there's enough content about you that I can put things in, and then it's doing all the research. It pops up all these really cool photos.
Did I find my mugshot? No.
So it gave me sassy taglines to set the tone. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got more acres than your favorite influencer has followers. The Jason Northcutt.
I had to remember that.
Isn't that cool?
That is funny.
That was
Did
kind of
really?
it did.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat.
I mean, that is scary and neat at the same time.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh gosh.
I do use ChatGPT a lot, so
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's great.
you know.
But no, I'm super excited to have you today, and I think, you know, given the climate that we're in and everything else, I'm really educating realtors and talking to them about, you know, really find your passion, find your niche, and one question that a lot of people ask me a lot of times is, Ashley, if you were talking to a brand new agent or yourself being a brand new agent, what would you tell them? Start the business you actually want to run.
Yeah, most
right.
definitely.
And so that is you sitting here in this seat because you radiate and are so passionate about land and doing that. And there's not a lot of you out there, which one, either you're an evil genius or, you know, and you reverse engineered what could I do?
Both, yeah.
But again, kind of tell me what that looks like. And so, you know, you were in the Navy and Army doing photography and broadcasting, and then that segued you into what made you say, yeah, Texas dirt is my destiny, let's make this happen?
Well, there's actually a funny story behind it. I always like to share my story if I can.
Yeah, please.
So, you know, it's both personal, and the reason I share is because I want other agents to know, hey, anything's possible. So I spent 13 years in lending. I went through the crash of 08, 9, and 10. I got out for a little bit, went back in the military full-time, and then came back into it. I know it's crazy.
Wow.
Why the hell would I do that, right?
Because we're just a little shade of crazy in this business.
So this is when I was up in Spokane, Washington, and I met my wife, well, you know, girlfriend at the time, now fiance, then wife, but and started getting my feet back into it, and that's when I found out the year before my father had passed away, and then that same year, the year after, I found out my mother was extremely ill, so we moved back to Texas in 15. So really, I'd been gone for a long time, so I didn't have that base, right? So in 15, my mother passed away. In this beginning of 16, I said, hey, I could do this. I'm going to be a realtor, man. I know everything. I'm the can't curse. I'm the business, right? So I was like, I got this. This is easy, right? So I took, did real estate classes in like a week. Got my license, like simple, easy. And by the end of 16, I filed bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. And I think I closed like 3 or 4 deals, if that. And to protect what we had to file bankruptcy. So the beginning of 17 rolled around. I didn't have enough money to renew my association dues, and so my association went inactive, which means my license went active.
Yep.
My fiance at the time, my wife now, she knew this is what I love to do, so she said, let's take what money we have left and renew. It's basically half of what we had left in savings.
Wow.
And that was, I think, March, April of 17.
Okay.
And literally, I am out there flipping chicken on the grill, drinking a beer, doing what everybody else does on Facebook, and scrolling, Mm-hmm. And I see this post from an investor who develops land. They take large tracts of land, they make them into smaller. And so I said, hey, I'd love to work with you because they're looking for an agent. Well, I couldn't sleep. So I figured out who he was, where he worked, found their phone number, found out exactly what they do.
All right, creeper. Love it.
Right. So I called him. He goes, out of probably 200 plus people that reached out, you're the only one that called me. He goes, when can we meet? Next day we signed 13 subdivisions.
And off to the races.
High five, man.
That's great.
Races. And that's actually how I got into land.
Okay.
So I love residential. I love architectural. I love designs. One of my favorites, mid-century modern homes. I love the design aspects of them. But everybody does residential.
Yes, they do.
you throw a rock, you hit a residential agent. I love my fellow agents all day and every day, but you can throw a rock and hit 15 at once.
Yeah.
But I figured that there weren't as many of us that do land. Now there are farm and ranch specialists, right? They a couple,
Sure.
But there's no one that really understands the land piece of it, as far as not just farm and ranch, but development piece of it, the subdivision rules of it, the nuts and bolts, if you will.
Sure.
And that's kind of how it worked. And then so that kind of spiraled into a couple more investors. And then the investor I originally worked with, they ended up getting their license. They still do it. They own their own real estate company.
Okay.
Phenomenal people.
Yeah.
They still do development, but started working with other investors. And then other investors would find me. And then other investors would find me. And now we're where we're at. So, I mean, we went from doing no deals in 16, and then 17, I think we did. So in a matter of about 9 months, also tuck off the last 2 weeks of the year to get married, and the following 2 weeks of 18. Yeah, was that right? 17, 18.
Yeah.
We did about just shy of $5 million in less than 9 months.
That's great.
And then, we got about 6, and then 8, and then up to 14, 15 million. I think in the last 5 years, our whole team, when we had a larger team, but we've done over 100 million and probably 600 plus land deals in the last 5 years, roughly.
That's amazing, Jason.
So, I mean, it's just land. I mean, that's not residential. That's just dirt.
Well, and I think that's really interesting. We're going to go back to the land, and then we're going to talk about, because you pump out some really cool media content and everything else at the same time. But I really think, especially in this market right now, where agents are really suffering and underwater, and obviously you were a lender in a downturn market and saw that. You filed bankruptcy, you resurrected yourself, you found something you were passionate about, but you also reverse engineered a profitable business strategy. And I think that's what realtors really miss a lot of the time, is the fact that you are running a business.
Oh, yeah.
And so figure out, like, if you just sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to sell residential homes, like, that's not a business model. Because to your point, we have more concentration in North Texas than just about everywhere else in the United States of agents. Miami is the only one that beats us out, but that's also because
I could see that.
But half the agents around the country also have a license in Miami for that one condo they want to sell, right? But
their mom's condo.
Yeah, your mom's condo. Yeah. But that's one of those things where you sit there and you go. That's why I say, if a new agent was coming to me today and saying, I'm about to get my license, what would you advise me to do? Find a niche. Figure out something you're passionate about that diversifies you from the other 52,000 in the North Texas footprint, right? And do that. And so that's what you've done a really good job at. I saw the writing on the wall too. I stopped sponsoring agents because the liability, but also
tough.
But also because they didn't understand that they were business owners too, and so there's not a lot of profitability in sponsoring agents. And so instead, I looked at my husband and I said, "You're up, Buttercup. You're getting licensed. We've been together 13 years, and you're going to run a property management company." So now I still do a considerable amount of business. I'm a top producer, just like yourself in the Real Producers community. But then we're one of the fastest growing independent property management companies, and do not advertise
is a beast.
It is.
I mean, and it's not just the amount of volume that you're dealing with; it's the amount of property code that you have to stay up on top of. From through TREC and the Texas property requirements, and what you can and can't do, what you can and can't say, how you do. I mean, that in of itself, I mean, it is. I would relate it to land because there is so much more.
There is.
Than most people realize. I mean, they're thinking, "Oh, it's property management." Might not be. Yeah. Why don't you go read the Texas property code?
Exactly. Why don't you go to an eviction court and meet the judge on the other side that says, you know what, they might not have paid rent for the last 4 months, but you didn't put the tenant deadbolts in. There's no peephole on your exterior doors,
so
and now you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking your eviction and I'm throwing it out. And so those are things that, just like you, we've been able to repurpose our professionalism and hone down on the intricacies of property management. And my husband, he's amazing. He hates the sales cycle. He hates that stuff. He likes the burn and turn and doing that. So, and he's a great compartmentalizer, like men are, right?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking, but he does such a good job. So he's thriving in that space.
Yeah.
But I think that's what you've done so well. So, I know you've got your cell phone sitting on your lap right now, because you're hoping. So tell the folks, because I hope you get that call and we get to do it on air. But tell them what you did the other day.
Yeah. So so everybody goes, well, Jason, well, where do you what's your main area that you work in for land? I say Texas, and they laugh. I'm like, no, seriously. I drive a 4-year-old truck. I bought it with 4 miles, and it has 113,000 miles on it.
Amen.
So, gosh, what's today? Friday. So it was last week. Someone on Facebook, I do a lot of Facebook. Facebook said, "Hey, I need someone that can sell land down in Lampasas. And
Okay.
so I reached out to the agent who was asking for the referral. Her and I talked and found out it's her father, and it's he's the executor of the great aunt, blah, blah, blah. So I talked to him, and it's in Lampasas, well, just north of Lampasas. So if anybody doesn't know where Lampasas is, it's about 190 miles one way from McKinney.
Okay.
So got up, I think I left a little after, well, actually I left about 6 a.m. and got there about 9:45, and we went on a side-by-side and toured 488 acres. And so I was one of a few that he talked to, and I found out I'm in the top 2, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I want it. It will be my largest to date. We average, our largest at any one time was about 200 acres, so this would be one of our largest.
That's amazing.
Which is 488 acres. We really want that listing. My goal this year is actually to take a single listing that is over 1,000 acres.
Wow.
Okay.
So,
Let's make it happen.
It's a good aspiration.
So,
From your lips to God's ears.
I mean, that's a lot of land. But,
It is a lot of land, and Texas still has it.
Oh yeah, there's more than you think.
Yeah.
There's a lot more 1,000+ acre properties out there for sale than you think. And to your point, for me it's frustrating because I see. Take residential, for example. Man, we spent a lot of money making that house look good.
Yeah, we do.
Right? The photos are, I almost said it again, effing brilliant. PG rated. I will not curse. I swear I will try not to drop any bombs.
You're doing a good job, Jason. Courtney and Lacey, not so much, but you're doing a good job.
It is Courtney, but I know her, but
Yeah.
like that much. But the thing is we make the houses look so grand, right? You can go in there and look at a picture. Oh my God, that bathroom is freaking phenomenal. You see land, they're like,
Land is land.
click, click.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. There's a reason why it hasn't sold for the last 4 years. It's because you have 3 photos of your property.
Yep.
It's not being represented correctly. And sorry, I get a little passionate.
No,
here,
but I think that's great because you're selling a lifestyle. You're selling what can be maybe developed on that land or the lifestyle that you can live on that land. Yeah. And that's what people don't understand. We are selling lifestyles, whether it's land, whether it's homes or anything else in between. And people don't do a really good job on that land side.
And it frustrates me because so years ago, a guy named Greg, he's out of San Francisco. I used to listen to his podcast a lot. And he actually helped his podcast, him and I can't think of his counterpart, helped me kind of get over that hump when I was trying to figure it out, right? So I listen to a lot of podcasts. But he actually said, and this will probably be, I'll try not to curse after this, but he said you can polish a pile of shit and still make it look good, right?
Yeah.
So right now, most agents are just polishing right above a pile of shit.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me, right? And we are professionals, and we're hired, and we're paid thousands of dollars, right? Oh, I only get paid $3,000. Yeah, you got paid $3,000 to do 10 hours worth of work. Now, can it be longer than that? Yes, of course. But when we're talking about 7-figure, 9-figure properties, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
I was joking earlier, and I'm not joking about it. I did post about it. I don't call them out particularly, but our hashtag is Who You Work With Matters. The guy, this is a $6.8 million listing. I want to say it was over 1,000 acres. One of the photos was of 6 bathrooms on one photo, taken with a cell phone, and all the toilet seats are up. Now, granted, this isn't land specific, but it is for a piece of land.
Yeah.
But at least it was consistent, right? But those are
With a cell phone.
With a cell phone. And there are times you can. I'm okay with cell phone photos, but yeah, it's just land is not represented the way it should be represented. Represented because people think it's just dirt, and it's not just dirt. And to your point, it is a lifestyle for some people.
Yeah, no, and it's a lifestyle that people are turning to. Obviously, we saw that trend during COVID, but it's still happening. And so I think someone like you who has really made it now their passion to sit there and bring it to life. I love watching your content that you post on Facebook and stuff. It's great. I mean, like I almost feel like I'm watching, like Yellowstone sometimes, and it's very dramatic and all of those things. But you do a really good job invoking emotion when you're talking about what you do and what you love, and I think that resonates really, really well. So this is where I'm going to let you and Tanner kind of nerd out a little bit.
Lordy.
Yeah.
So go for it.
I mean, I'm most concerned because I like Ashley am really trying to drive agents towards finding their niche. Like, where's your passion? Where's it going to come out? Because that's where we're going to get the best of you. How do we make land sexy or interesting? Or like, I mean, I just feel I get the same calls that you do, right? Where they're like, hey, I've got 5 acres. Can you come take a couple pictures of it? And we, take our angles, draw our lot lines, and we're done. Kind of falls flat. What do you do that helps?
So you have to do video.
Yeah.
And of course the video, I mean, I showed you one earlier. It's not the sexiest of videos, but the whole idea is to grab their attention. And I equate it to a dating app, right? Now, I'll say this. My wife will probably kill me. Okay, so 2 things.
I know where this is going.
So I worked at the gym part-time while I was going to school. So I was taking some time off from work trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, right? So and I used to work in the gym all the time. So my wife now, she walks in the gym. I'm like, oh, damn, she's cute, right? So, and I don't ever talk to girls at a gym. I just, that's
bad protocol.
I don't do it, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, there's something about her. So I said hi to her. As she was leaving, I got enough nerve, right? I could talk to anybody, but when it came to girls, I'm like, I clam up, So
it's all right. I had to tell my husband finally, I've been hitting on you for 30 days. And he's like, cool, now we can go out. Yeah.
So back in the day, there's this app called Tinder.
Oh, yeah.
I swiped right. She goes, oh, you look familiar. I'm like, shit. We talked at the gym. She goes, oh, yeah, now we're married. So
I love it.
So I don't know where I was going. Oh, yeah. So dating apps, right? So think about when you're single, if you use a dating app. And if you're single out there and you're using a dating app, you definitely can relate to this, is you're scrolling.
Yep.
You're scrolling, and that picture is what
makes you stop.
Yes. Same thing with land. So if your picture of the very first picture of land is just an outline with a red line, or worst case is when I see this, what they use their finger to circle it, and that's your picture, and I'm like, dude,
they hand draw the arrow.
I'm like, this is 2025. You can use MailChimp or no, there's not Photoshop. There's an equivalent to free Photoshop. It's not that difficult, people. But I quit it to that. Damn, it's not them calling.
I know. I was looking to you.
Photo,
okay,
right?
got it.
So that's the biggest thing is how can you make that person stop scrolling while they're in the John or laying in bed or just sitting passively searching on something, right? So it's that dramatic photo. It's the can you get a photo with dramatic sky? Can you add? We do some manipulations of photos for adding a sky, right? Because we want that land to pop, right? That 5 acres just in the middle of nowhere, you're like, oh, yeah, it's 5 acres in the middle of nowhere. But if there's enough of a, oh, hey, well, that's pretty cool. Let me stop and look, and that's kind of that's how we approach that concept of it.
So as far as attracting new people with land looking to sell land, do you have a strategy there to is it all referral business? Like, how do you get the country boys? It's like, man, I'm going to carve off 40 acres of this and put it up for sale. Like, how do you find that guy?
He knows that guy.
Well, let me preface it with this. I have my broadcasting voice where I'm articulating and talking freely, and then I have my, hey, how you doing today? I'm doing pretty good.
That's how them Gentry's talk.
That's
you get further away from DFW, you get north of DFW, you get up to Paris, it gets a little twangy.
You a little twangy, right? My wife goes, what the hell happened to your voice? Like, shut up. But, a lot of what we have built over the years are referrals from other agents that they like, I don't want to deal with land, right? So let's call Jason. Jason, hey, can you take this? Yes, so we'll take it most of the time. But because of what, to your point, of stuff that we try to publish on a regular basis, the photography aspect of it, the video aspect of it, we actually just recently started working with an investor who saw my stuff online, who saw my stuff on lands.com, saw how I approached it and said, hey, can you work with us? Here's a couple of properties. Would you look at them? Sure. So we started looking at them. Now we have their 22-lot subdivision in Commerce that we're launching. We have other small projects throughout Texas that we're working on right now. And that's really how our business has built over the years. We don't pay for advertising. Well, I say we don't pay for advertising. We do some advertising for land-specific or large projects. We pay for lands.com. But outside of that, we're not doing.
You're not doing ads,
advertising for yourself,
leads, and things of that nature.
And then we've also started writing books, right? So ChatGPT does help us on that, right? So I do go back and proofread it, and because we've been using ChatGPT now for well over 2.5 years, it can now go back and look at all of our conversations. And I say, hey, based on our conversations, this is what I'm trying to do. Take all of our thoughts and processes, and can we put this into a book? So we're starting to develop books for how to sell your land, how to buy land, right? Just little nuggets of what we can to get out there to the public. So.
Okay. Is that like, are you taking those nuggets, or are you educating people on your platform, on your Facebook, or like how does that work? Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't done them as much as I did last year, but we were trying to produce at least 2 to 3 short videos every week, 1.5 to 2 minutes of just a FAQ, right? Like, hey, what is a septic system? What is a percolation test? What are some of the things you need to look out for when you're buying land? Specifically, we did one recently how a seller lost over close to $20,000 because the person that they bought the land from didn't know to look at the deed restrictions in the architectural committee to make certain they could build what they want. They bought the land, went to submit, and they're like, oh, yeah, you can't do that. So now we're turning around and relisting it. She'll break even.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there a pitfall like that you see more often than not, of like a misconception when you're trying to buy or sell land, where that's always like a gotcha for your clients? Is there something out there that sticks out?
The biggest is just deed restrictions.
Yeah.
So when we list a property, we have a very long list of questions that we ask, right? Are there deed restrictions? If you pull title, can I see the title? Make sure there's nothing recorded on file. If there is, they go, hey, by the way, did you know this? And they're like, oh, crap, I didn't know. But sorry, I had to take breath there. So that's the biggest thing that we have issues with on the listing side is agents aren't doing their due diligence up front before they list it.
Yeah.
And then you have a buyer's agent who thinks, oh, it's just land. It's an easy squeezy lemon peasy. And then they're like, oh, crap, you what?
Yep.
Right? Because they don't know to ask these questions. They didn't look at the title commitment schedule B to see if there's any filed and recorded deeds. Yes, I read and review title.
Yeah, well, you have to with land, especially depending on if it's, there's a lineage of people and who has the actual vested interest in all of this and what that looks like, and obviously mineral rights and different things like. But deed restrictions is a huge thing.
And that's the biggest one we see though is really deed restrictions.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I remember again during COVID where we saw a lot of people were pushing out and going into the tertiary markets. And Ashley, I want a pig. I want chickens. I mean, it really was happening consistently.
Oh, yeah.
And then also realizing that each municipality, on top of certain deed restrictions, you might think like, hey, there's no HOA, but whoever platted those lots could have actually filed something that still restricted what you can do on the property, and it's 40 years old. And so those were the things that I was running into over and over again, not just the municipality, but old deed restrictions that were filed that still were, that still.
I have stories on those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had deed restrictions from the 60s. I had one deed restriction from the 50s that said a certain person or ethnicity was not allowed to build a house there or live in the main house.
Isn't that insane? Yeah.
They could live in a guest quarters or a servant's quarters, but it was very specific to what ethnicity could and could not live
so
in the main
Texas
house.
Realtors actually a couple of sessions ago had put forth a bill in Texas that would eradicate any type of language, but that was still sitting in deed covenants.
It's like seeing walking in like an old airport, like municipal airport, seeing like the whites only like fountain.
No,
like,
I mean, but seriously,
there's one of those not too far from here.
And
Really
obviously that would never stand precedence today, and
correct.
it's illegal.
But still needs to be removed nonetheless.
But it's there.
Yeah.
And you don't know that until you start digging in.
Yep.
Especially if it's a lakefront property that used to have a POA or HOA that's kind of defunct but kind of there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh crap, let me research this because. To your point, like an HOA, for example, is an HOA can be invalidated, right? So both residential and land, but specifically when you're dealing with a small community of land, was it ever renewed? And if it was never renewed and refreshed, then there is no HOA.
Right.
Now, there could be a voluntary HOA, but if you're not part of it, you don't have to follow those guidelines.
Sure.
Typically. Now, of course, get with an attorney, they'll give you full clarification of that. That's my disclaimer.
Okay.
But,
all I know, if somebody's calling you and they're asking about livestock and pigs and everything else, you need to be careful because people will think, well, yeah, you can have a pig because I see cows next door. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can have swine sitting on your property.
So swine is a big thing. Llamas, emus, those are actually, we actually had deed restrictions with no llamas, no emus, no pigs.
My mom sold an emu farm one time. They're
kind of, they're fun to watch. But
they're mean.
They're mean. But yeah, to that point, where were we going again?
I don't know, just talking about deed restrictions and swine and different things like that.
So that is outside of your deed restrictions, right? You have to know your county guidelines because you can have only so much livestock per acre, right? So you can't put 30 head of cow on 5 acres. You can try, but what will happen is you're going to starve them. And then they're going to bust out and they're going to have a lot of other issues. So there are certain guidelines you still have to follow, even though it's not technically zoned. Yeah. You still have to follow those guidelines.
Sure.
So.
No, I think it's amazing. We've got a couple minutes left, and so I would love to.
What other questions?
Because you guys were talking about tech gear and everything else here a second ago.
We were talking about the drones we fly. Yeah. Because there's a new. We want to be. You have a gimbal, like the new Mavic 4.
We're
Pro
looking at
has like a gimbal that moves, and I haven't dabbled in there yet. So I was trying to think of what you're out there shooting land and ranch all the time.
Yeah.
You're looking for a new way to show that. It's mainly aerial. I love aviation and drones and all that stuff. So what's new? What are you using is more my thought or my question.
I wasn't Sorry, I was hoping that was him.
It's okay.
I know you're looking up the number.
Making sure it was the right number.
No.
Sorry. But yeah, so we do use drone photography quite a bit. I think even with your less expensive, like the Mini Pros, will still do a great job because it all comes down to megapixels and how it's presented, right? But to get fancier, you're going to pay more. We are looking at going into the new Mavic 4 Pro, just because of the size, the length of time they can fly. Because when you're flying 100 acres, we only have 3 batteries, and they're 30 minutes each. It sometimes takes me an hour.
And out there with high winds, right? A lot of times.
Yeah.
We forget, like when you get out in like West Texas where there's nothing to knock down the wind, or even up north, like I spent a lot of time in Paris, and that wind goes like 20, 30 miles an hour. And you got to think about where you start. Yeah, well, I have to think about where I start my drone shot. So I always go upwind, so I can work my way down the property, right? So I'm not fighting with losing battery life going back. So that's all just like little things you think of when you're doing big land. So.
But yeah, we're looking at the new 4 just because it has a lot more usability. Some of the things that we're trying to do, for example, trying to create 3D mapping, like a Matterport for residential. We're trying to figure out how can we make that more streamlined with the land piece of it, so someone can actually click and drag it around and look at it and kind of zoom in a little bit and pull out a little bit. They can see the clearing. So we've tried and we've experimented with the Air 3, but I think we do need to upgrade so we have a larger sensor that has more capabilities to get more data, because those type of things are very data driven. Like it's how much pixels and information can it capture at each pass every 5 seconds, right? So we're talking 3,000-4,000 photos compressed into another, compressed into I shouldn't say 3-4. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
But compressed into a system to create that 3D model that we're looking for. But yeah, tech wise, I mean,
you're doing some cool stuff.
We're trying.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is we're just trying to bring land to the forefront. Like not real trend. Is it real trends? Like real produce. So I'd mess with Jordan all the time because
real trends is good too, but this is real producers.
But real producers. Well, no, I always have to pick on Jordan because he forgets me because I do land. So I'm like, hey, by the way, Jordan, you look at my numbers. Oh yeah, that's right. So, but
I have not forgotten.
I know,
you,
but
Jason.
where that pulls in is like real trends, for example. It's all residential, right? There is nothing specific to land. So we're trying to how can we bring this more to the forefront, and how can we educate? It's not just educating the consumer. It's how can we educate realtors as well, right?
No, we love that.
I actually said realtors, not realtors.
Good job. Good job. I won't have to edit that one on you with some AI or something.
Talking about AI, we do use that quite a bit. We're working more on the consultant side now. We do have a lot of people calling us saying how can we subdivide this, and we run subdivision scenarios. And then we are working on a new app, web platform plus app, where we're taking all 254 counties in Texas, putting it into a database. You can pull it up and say, hey, what are my subdivision rules for Fannin County?
That's great.
Right, because right now you actually physically have to go to each county, pull down the PDF, Control F or Command F, and search what you're searching for. And it's time consuming. So we're trying to take that and put all that information into one. And we've been talking about it now for 6 months, and we're running into database issues right now. Is trying to make it talk to each other.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Another
I love you spending time and energy creating real value for your potential buyers. Like that's great.
Well, and that's what we were trying to do here is not just highlight. Oh, hopefully he doesn't call now. It's on the floor, man. I know, but trying to not just highlight amazing agents in the real producers ecosystem, but also provide value to the community. And I think today you've illustrated why people should call you if they've got land needs or anything else, and the intricacy of all of that is huge, and you're very passionate. I can tell, and people need to be looking at his content because it's fun. It's like watching your own Paramount show sometimes and doing that. And so we really do. We appreciate you hopping on with us today and talking about land and niching down and what that means and being a part of the real producers community and family. And you're pretty awesome, dude.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And short story, we're probably related one way or another.
We could
be.
Hold on. Did some Gentry lineage and everything else.
So she's a Gentry.
Yeah.
My mother, Gentry. That's on my mother's
and they're
side.
feral.
But you haven't traced this back down yet?
We have not.
Well, so
oh, man.
the way my grandfather, this is back in the day. Back in the 80s when you had to actually do a lot of research. He actually traced it to 2 guys from Germany in the 1700s, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That came over to the United States. And so somewhere, some way, we're probably related somehow.
We're cousins.
We're cousins. But we do joke. Gentry's have this whole feral thing.
Interesting.
That's why I said you didn't see my mugshot. Did
Yeah, no, I know it's great, but no, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a great way to end the show. We're cousins, brother.
Hey, one way or another.
Thanks for coming.
Cousins from another mother.
We'll see you later, folks.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it.